A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's tonight's top 10.
So there you go, a little David Letterman for you, which kicks off what we're going to be getting into, at least the format of what we're going to be getting into. Remodelers Advantage asked me as part of their Build 8 event to do a session and kind of left it open-ended. And I was thinking, okay, what do remodelers need to hear during the crazy quarantine and COVID times? And one thing I realized that we all need to hear is we need some encouragement. We need to remain upbeat, even though we're kind of feeling beat up. So what this talk is about, and from the feedback I got from the Remodelers Advantage event, people really enjoyed it and got some good takeaways from it. So what you're going to hear are the top 10 ways to remain upbeat instead of beat up. And I hope you enjoy it. What I wanted to cover today, 10 ways to remain upbeat instead of beat up. And of course, we're starting this by right before Rose was hitting the record button. She goes, "Oh, Kyle, you froze." And then the connection improved. We are all in kind of weird, crazy, chaotic times. Instead of being at my nice office with my stand-up desk, I'm in my bedroom with hopefully my 4 kids and my wife kind of not going to bust in here. But even if they did, that's the times that we're in. And hopefully the technology will be solid. So as I wanted to share it with remodelers across the fruited plains. This idea of, man, nobody has the answer to how long this is going to last. Nobody knows exactly what to expect. We're in a bit of uncharted territory. And one thing I do know, just even from my own feelings and certainly from the coaching work I do with dozens and dozens of remodelers around the country, I'm hearing just a lot of worry and concern and just feeling beat up. And I think it's really important that we remain upbeat and we remain optimistic and we remain positive. And there's some ways and things we can focus on to do that. So I wanted to give you guys kind of a feel for some of what I'm hearing out there. All of these little quotes come off my private Facebook group, free private Facebook called Remodelers Community. And this first one, it says, "The most difficult thing right now is many of us are shutting down our company for 3+ weeks. This is super hard and confusing for so many reasons." Another person said, "Some employees are expressing concern about coming to work and opting to self-quarantine themselves to avoid exposure. Totally understand, but it makes it tough when you're a small team to start with. Need to adjust and look at alternatives." A little bit of beat up there. Another one, "If it hits your state like it has here this week in Maryland and the fear that the next couple weeks will be worse, it takes it to a whole new level. People are afraid to move and go about their lives. Our phones have stopped ringing. Our owner..."
Oh, you're totally frozen now, Kyle.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, if you could just start again with Tom Lizio's.
Yeah. Sure. All good now?
Yes, good.
Okay, cool. So this one says, "If it hits your state like it has here this week in Maryland and the fear that the next couple of weeks will be worse, it takes it to a whole new level. People are afraid to move and go about their lives. Our phones have stopped ringing. Our owner-occupied projects are on hold and 2 large contracts canceled. This is real when your governor says stay home. The business world as we know it changes." On the flip side, Sean's saying we are still going strong. Finishing up a $50,000 bathroom remodel. Just started a whole house remodel. Have another 500, 600K project starting next month, hopefully. And just got a call for a pull and replace kitchen remodel this weekend. God willing, everyone else will be back going strong again soon. So I'm talking to you guys. I've got people that I know, some of you are just on full shutdown. Some of you are business quasi as usual. This one from Paul says, "Only about 40% of the country is really being affected by this right now. How the other 60% is affected depends on a lot of the lessons we learn and actions we take to stop the spread. Some states will come out of this while others are just starting. All play out yet. I'm optimistic, but still being cautious." And finally, this one, gentleman said, "Right now, I'm not listening to most people about this type of stuff. Everyone is talking about how to market or reach customers, new things to offer or ways to relate, what the new economy will be like, how to properly position yourself after this. Bottom line is that no one really knows where this is going. Too many people trying to be influencers and experts. It's not helpful, in my honest opinion. Some honest talk from him. And there's just so much out there of people maybe trying to take advantage of it or telling us what to do. It is different out there. It is weird out there. It is chaotic out there. So I'm listening to all of this, especially this gentleman who was just giving some honest talk and saying what would be helpful to the remodelers out there that are listening to this. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do tend towards is I'm a very kind of optimistic, practical kind of guy. And that's how my coaching over the last 12 years has been as well. We need to keep moving forward. We need to be upbeat instead of feeling beat up. We need encouragement. So in some specific things we can do. So that's where we're going to go today. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. Rose, is it okay if we have fun on this, or are we supposed to be super serious?
Fun is always welcome.
Okay. I was showing my wife these slides earlier and I said, I'm going to do like a top 10 David Letterman style. And she goes, isn't that kind of like dating you? Like he's kind of done. Like he's retired. You know, you're not going to reach the millennials, those young remodelers. But I said, look, Dave is still the man. So we're going to do a little top 10. All right. So we're going to start with number 10. We're going to go down to 1. Number 10, how to stay upbeat instead of beat up. Now is a good time that we need to sharpen our sales skills to overcome objections. We need to sharpen our sales skills to overcome objections. Here's why I'm saying that. From 2 of my remodeling clients last week. One, they contacted me. She's talking about a prospect. They contacted me about the possibility of buying materials directly instead of through us. Okay. Another one, I was checking in with one of my clients in Nebraska. He says, stress is the only constant right now. We're still working, but I've already had a couple people that want to put off their upcoming jobs. And one that's coming up next month is starting to nitpick and ask for a cost breakdown after they've already signed the letter of intent and paid $10,000. So this number 10, a time to sharpen our sales skills. This is coming and it can make us feel beat up. Look at that emoji he's got there. He's slapping his forehead with his hands because we work hard. So, some of you may be really transparent with your pricing. Others, you know, we have maybe a couple little line items that we use. Others like, here's our price. But when times start to get maybe not as good as they've been, customers, prospects, our clients start to see maybe some options of how can I cut my costs a little bit? Maybe I could buy the materials directly. You know, maybe if I can make them really break this down, we could have so-and-so, you know, do the plumbing part of this. And for many of you, for many of the remodelers I work with, that is not really how we operate our business. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So to sharpen our sales skills, what that means, and I want you to almost kind of get in front of this before you start to see it out there, because I think most of you are going to see situations like the 2 I just gave you. We need to address the situation head on, kind of get in front of the objections, kind of go on offense versus defense. And I think a few ways for you to do that and a few things that you can practice and sharpen up on is, 1, get really clear with these 5 powerful words, which is, this is how we work. This is how we work. You know, you need to explain to your prospects, to your clients, why you do things the way you do. There's a reason that you present your proposals a certain way, maybe all in one lump sum price. You know, there's probably a reason that you order all of the materials on the job. Let's talk about that one for a second. You know, if you get in front of this situation, you say, you know, this is why we handle all of the materials up front. What we have found is when we're able to do that, that's how we keep your project on schedule. That's how we keep your project on budget. We're able to warranty the full job. So even if you have an issue, you know, 3 months later, 9 months later, 2 years later, we're going to stand behind it and warranty it. Now all of a sudden I'm getting in front of that objection versus kind of being on my heels and saying, well, you know, we actually order materials, and being kind of on the defense. So I think thinking through and doing some batting practice, I call it, on how to handle objections. You're going to hear more objections to your price, to the way that you operate, than you have the previous 6 months. The next 6 months, whenever we get out of this, right, hopefully weeks versus months, whenever we get out of this, you're going to hear more objections on these things. So now is a really good time to get in front of it, because if you don't, it does feel like you're getting beat up Okay. Now, I just gave this pep talk to the gentleman on the previous slide who was saying, I'm already getting people to nitpick it. And I said, Nate, you've got to get in front of this. Call them and say, hey, I'm starting to get a vibe that you've got a lot of questions. Let's talk about this. What's going on? And he was like, yeah, I'm kind of fearful of that. I think they're going to kind of tell me they want to put off the project. And he responded after he did kind of get in front of the situation the best he could. And he said, not near as bad as I was expecting. They ended up cutting out a few small things to cut costs, but the bulk of the project is still in place, picking up the deposit on Tuesday. So that first one, to stay upbeat versus beat up, let's brush up on our sales skills. We are coming off of a period of time where leads have been plentiful, work has been plentiful for the majority of us. It's time we sharpen our sales skills. So that's number 10. Number 9, use technology to keep things moving. Use technology to keep things moving. Is my audio smooth so far, Rose, since our little blip?
Yeah, there was another little blip, but we're doing good. We're doing good.
We're dealing with it.
Yeah.
Technology is out there. There is more and more people going on Zoom that's using technology. So I wanted to share just a few thoughts on this. I'm probably not going to be the only person that you've heard share this, but I've got maybe a few ideas for you. That's my client, Colin, who's here in Michigan, and he sent me that text that's Loomed, Loom. That's different than Zoom. Loom, Loom. If you go and search Loom, it is a little app that you can download on your phone, or you can download it on your computer. And with a click of a button, you can be sharing your video and your screen, or you can just be sharing your video. What's really nice about it is when you're done recording it, you click a button and it opens up a nice just URL that you can copy and paste. The way that Colin did it, he recorded the 2-minute, 57-second update for his employees. At the end of last week here in Michigan, at the start of last week, we got the stay-at-home order. All residential construction is a halt, similar to how it is in Pennsylvania. I believe Washington State, pretty much 100% shut down. And Colin had been studying the different rules, regulations, wanted to give an update to his team, wanted it to be a little bit more personalized, so he created it this way. This is an amazing little tool. If you have a design, if you have a proposal pulled up, to say, hey, as we talked about, I made some tweaks to this kitchen design. Here's what I did here. Here's what I did there. Let me know if that looks good, or if you have any questions. Thanks so much. Click. There's a link. It's a very helpful little tool. So we got to use technology to keep communication with our team, with our clients, with our prospects really solid. It's a wonderful sales tool. So keep that in mind. Another one you guys are probably very familiar with is Zoom, Zoom. 2 different companies, they just rhyme. But I got this note from my client in Idaho, Anthony Boyd. Hey, I just did my first consultation with a homeowner through Zoom. It went fairly well. Didn't even have to leave the office. Who would have thought I was even capable of such feats? Anthony's not the most technology advanced remodeler that I work with. No offense, Anthony. I mean, based on what you're seeing there, you can probably see that he wouldn't take offense to that. But remodelers and people who have never really used some of this technology starting to embrace it. I think it's really important to do that. It's going to help us be more upbeat than beat up, because it's going to be a lot more convenient to communicate with your team and prospects. It's going to help you continue to move projects forward during this time where you might be kind of stalled out of being able to work in the field. This is another example of that. It went very well. This is one of my clients in Pennsylvania. 2.5 hours worth finalizing the cabinetry design for a 400 square foot kitchen addition. He used Zoom for this. I shared my screen with them and just worked through the design wall by wall. Probably going to be doing more of it. I upgraded to the Zoom Pro subscription. Forgot to mention that we also signed a design agreement for another 100K kitchen first floor remodel. Several things there. One, the Zoom Pro subscription just allows you to have longer meetings if you did it kind of in a group. Frankly, if you just go to zoom.us and sign up for the free account, that's going to work for the majority of you. And you can see how by sharing his screen, by going through it together, by having that meeting, he's able to move this project development and design further down the track, so that when he has the opportunity to get back out there and start working, he's not going to be starting from back here, but he's going to be starting from up here. Hopefully you guys can see my video. And then that second part, it is really important to make a big stink about positive things that are happening right now. I forgot to mention, we signed this design agreement for another big project. Make sure you're sharing that with your fellow employees, with your community, or your team around you, that there's positive things going. Now, a lot of times he might not mention that, but in times like these, we've got to remain positive. And then one other thought related to technology, if somebody called you and said, we've got this kitchen project and they're not comfortable with you going out, or maybe you or your designers aren't comfortable going out, there is a lot of ways that we can get a project going without having to be there in person. This is an example of just a measuring guide, showing people 4 steps to kitchen measuring guide, and maybe Google that, search for that. You'll see other remodelers who have, similar tools related to that. But there's a lot of things between them recording some maybe quick videos, them taking pictures, filling out a basic measuring guide, where you can get some designs together, start to do some project development. So keep that in mind. That is a key way to remain upbeat instead of beat up, is to use technology to see each other, to move projects forward, and to have some momentum in amongst the craziness. All right, that's number 9. Number 8. We should have a little drum roll, but oh well. Number 8. Rose, you are on. Are you going to do that for every time, or is that just a one? You are. Now, Rose, are you just trying to have fun, or are you just delirious from doing all of these and managing all of these? They're probably all kind of blending together for you.
Well, this is great, and I'll have you know that fun is one of the core things for our company. So I'm really happy to interject a little bit more fun here.
Oh, careful though. You put me down on the fun train, and I will probably get a little too crazy. Although it is important. That is one very important part of being upbeat instead of beat up, is to just make sure, and we'll touch base on that in a little bit. Number 8, balance out the bad news. Balance out the bad news. How do we remain upbeat instead of beat up? It was last Thursday or Friday. I think it was one of the first things I did in the morning. I clicked on CNN.com, just kind of said, okay, what are the headlines today? And I could literally feel my mood just continue to kind of go from, feeling pretty good, got some coffee going, feeling nice, to just down. This could happen, and there's potential for this can happen, and this did happen, and X number of people have died. It's real. We don't want to ignore. We have to understand that the situation that our country's facing and the world's facing is very serious, but we have got to balance out the bad news with something that's productive or some type of good news. So I think that's huge in remaining upbeat instead of beat up. We've got to be, knowledgeable about what's going on for sure, but we can't let that be 100% of what we consume. I wrote on here 25%, 75%. Now, 42% of all statistics are made up, but Rose, some courtesy laughter. This is when you come in.
I'm sorry. I was on mute. I was laughing.
Maybe you just need to get on. We said, I said, hey, I'm going to interact with you a little bit. You might need to just stay unmuted if I'm going to keep calling you like that. But, 42% of all statistics are made up. But this is probably about right. If you're consuming 25% of just the news of the day, balance that out with 75%. Even if you went 50-50, I think that would be better than a lot of us are doing, myself included. What do we balance that with? There are podcasts. There are, books. There's just flat out music that we could consume it with. There's just an assortment of content that we could consume that would just leave us feeling a little bit more upbeat instead of beat up. Who are you talking to and listening to? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who's an upbeat, encouraging person in your life that you could reach out to, that you should reach out to? I put in as the 4th bullet here, where's your community of people? It is a time where all of us need to be in community. We need to be around people to just rant to them, to complain to them, yes, to encourage each other, to talk through difficult things that are going on in our businesses, in our lives. Make sure that you're being very purposeful. This is part of balancing out the bad news, is making sure you're surrounding yourself and you're putting effort towards living in and being in community with others. That might be friends, that might be through your church or faith, that might be through just connections you have, that might be through people like, your group in Remodelers Advantage, that might be through Facebook groups. Whatever the case is, you need to find your community of people, and now is the time we need to be in community more than ever before. So that's number 8, balancing out the bad news. Number 7, cash flow gives you clarity. As I was thinking through these 10 items, what I just had in mind, and I actually had the list kind of pulled up, is I was just thinking about my remodeling clients, guys and gals that I've worked with for a long time, and I'm going, okay, it's what I'm sharing, the advice and what I think would be most helpful to Brett and to Ken and to Josh and Jason and Corrine and Nancy, and just thinking through clients. And this is one that just has been coming out of my mouth as I've been coaching, as I've been giving guidance and direction over the last couple of weeks is, okay, no matter if you're needing in Michigan, you need to shut down for 3 weeks, whether you are still able to keep things going, we have got to look hard at our cash flow. I'm guessing other people in the Build Aid are going to be talking about that, but let me just give my 2 cents on it and what I mean by it. Talking to a remodeler, let's say, who has $70,000 between checking and savings right now. This is kind of a hypothetical, but it's not. It's actually just a conversation I had last week. And he's going, okay, I've had to put people on unemployment, so my payroll, that's what that's going to be. I'm starting to look at, other things, but man, I just feel like I don't have enough money. I feel like I'm going to be out of money in no time. What if this lasts for 4 weeks or 5 weeks? What's going to happen? And I said, hey, let's actually deal with numbers instead of everything floating around in your head. When things are chaotic and stressful and anxiety inducing, especially with the number side and the financial side of our remodeling businesses, we have got to deal with facts instead of just letting numbers float around. So one kind of simple way of looking at this is to get a spreadsheet open and just do your cash flow for April 2020. We're just at the start of the month, your cash flow for April 2020. Have the top section be accounts receivable. What are payments that you have out there that you're anticipating collecting this month? By the way, if you're kind of in between a draw and you've had to stop on a certain project, maybe your normal draw might be another 10% of the project, but you're only kind of 5% through that. To do some partial billings on whatever you are up to can be a helpful thing. But get really clear with what money and what dollars are going to be coming into you. Okay, in this case, I made some fictitious clients and amounts here, but there's $50,000 coming in April. And then accounts payable, more job-related costs. So maybe there's still some payroll. You see 6,000 there. And it's kind of going down maybe because you had to lay some people off. But we got payroll in here. We've got our employee taxes. We got subcontractor invoices, material suppliers. And let's say we tally that up. Wrestle with those numbers. Get clear with those numbers. What do you have? Accounts payable, job-related costs going out the door. In this case, I put 60,000 in there of expenses. And then down here, just overall business expenses. We got advertising, coaching, business.
Oops, got a little over. There you're back. You're back.
Cool. So business expenses, we got advertising, we have all these expenses. Go through your P&L, look at all these different line items and think through, okay, for the month of April, what am I going to have going out the door? This is also when you can start wrestle with things of going, maybe I could kick this one out a month if need be, or, can I cut this one out? These are some of these decisions we might need to make. But by doing this, looking at income coming out, job-related costs that are going to go out this month, business expenses going out, it's going to give you a positive or negative cash flow. It's the same thing we would do in any given month to kind of get a handle on it. But using that example I used earlier of my client who had $70,000 in the bank, while he's looking at a negative, almost $19,000 cash flow in April, he's okay. He's okay. It stinks. He's going to need to continue to tap into it. If it lasts longer, it's going to turn into even more pain. But he's okay. He can weather the storm. And until we actually do these cash flows, we wrestle with these numbers, we get clear with these numbers, a lot of our just fretting and worrying will consume us and will make us felt beat up instead of upbeat. Now, still, it's negative $19,000. It's not going to get you upbeat too much, but it's going to give you some clarity. It's going to help you make decisions. Okay. So that is a huge tip that I have of number 7 of cash flow gives you clarity. Number 6, how do you remain upbeat instead of beat up in the middle? Rose, you didn't give me a drum on this one.
I didn't give you a drum roll. I'm sorry.
I feel like that was your second best drum roll so far.
Only the first
okay.
is the best.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So identify an area of weakness and improve it. This has been a weird one. So I have an office outside the home. And last Wednesday or so, I was still going in for a couple of days. My wife's like, I set you up with a desk at home. I want you home. I just don't want you going out there. And so I've come home and technically it's spring break this week, but all 4 of our kids are home. My wife's a music teacher at the kids' school. She's still doing a little bit of work. It's just weird. And I found myself sleeping in longer, staying up later. I found myself not quite as productive, as efficient. And we need to understand that that's the case. I'll actually share a little bit more on that later. But one thing we do need to hunker down on to feel upbeat instead of beat up is it's time to work on the business. Leads aren't coming, even if you're still going and you're still getting work done, leads aren't as busy. Most people aren't as busy as they were 3 months ago, 6 months ago. If I were talking to you, Mr. or Mrs. Remodeler, 4 months ago, and I said, hey, what do you want to work on? Oh man, I would love to work on this. I just don't have the time to do it. Well, guess what? We got time. So number 6 is identify an area of weakness and improve it. Some ideas related to this. It could be related to your sales process. Maybe you are pulling out a blank sheet of paper when you have a new prospect come in. You're kind of shooting from the hip. You don't have a solid process together for your sales process. Maybe between that initial phone call and the in-person meeting, you're not sending out a nice professional appointment confirmation email. Maybe when the job is done, you're not doing hardly anything as far as staying in touch with your previous clients after the sale at 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Now is the time to work on that. So that's one example. Job costing. I am talking to too many remodelers who do not have a good handle on their job costing. Okay, you have your proposal, you have your estimate, you have all of your costs, you have what you're expecting to make in gross profit on each of your projects. You most likely are tracking your time based on the job, your materials, everything. You have your actual on your jobs. What is that difference on different lines of what you were expecting versus your actual? Maybe you can go back over the last 6 months, dig into that. It's grunt work, it's hard work, but to get into that and to really run those numbers, it's going to help you be a better estimator. It's going to help your production side. It's going to help you reduce your slippage and all of those good things. So maybe now's the time you can dig into that. Your estimating system, a never-ending, always something to be working on to fine-tune that. A lot of you probably use Builder Trend or Co-Construct. It is a bear to get those programs up and running to full capacity. Maybe now's the time where you can really dedicate some time to getting those parts of the process in place. Streamlining design and development process, your marketing plan. What one area for you, and in all of my coaching and all of my teaching, whether it's at the International Builders Show webinars I am always about what is one takeaway. I want you to have one takeaway from the time that I'm presenting, so that even after you watch this a week from now, if you went back and said, hey, Kyle's thing about upbeat versus beat up, what was the one thing that I actually did and had a takeaway on? This is a really good one. Identifying one area, find one area of weakness and improve it. So that's number 6. And if you do that, it's going to help you be upbeat. You're going to realize, oh, wait a minute, I had an opportunity to work on my business and I really took it on and took care of it. All right, cool. And this was just, really think about it. And I put down here my wife and I are, Rose, this is when you're supposed to laugh after this joke, okay? Okay. I married my wife because she's the love of my life, my high school sweetheart, but also it's because her father has season tickets to Michigan football. I mean, that's pretty funny. Even if I didn't tell you to laugh, you probably would have still laughed. But I have a quote here from the mildly effective coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh. Attack this day with enthusiasm unknown to mankind. I know in the middle of stress and worry and anxiety, it's hard for us to do that. But when you think of these different areas of your business, what if you spent the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks where things are slower and really zeroed in on your process? What if you said, this week, I am going to dig in. I'm going to watch podcasts. I'm going to study. I'm going to reach out to other remodelers. I'm going to reach out to, so-and-so. I'm going to do some training on this particular area. What if you spent these next 4 or 5 weeks truly making solid progress on systems, processes, areas of weakness in your remodeling business? You're going to come out of this. And I would argue if you really take that seriously and you had a lot of weaknesses that you improved, even with a slowdown of 4, 5, 6 weeks or whatever it ends up being, you may be a stronger business longer term. You may look back at this on a 12, 18, 24 month and realize I'm making more money because I got this, and this done. So that whole enthusiasm unknown to mankind, I wanted to plant that seed in your head. Is hopefully a word of encouragement. All right. Number 5, develop your marketing plan. This is an area that, marketing has not had I keep finding myself wanting to go to the next slide because the lighting in our room here is not that great, but when I go to the white screen, it lights me up a little bit. But I wanted to talk about this so that you're not staring at my screen and not listening to me. So eyes up here. Related to your marketing plan, marketing's been a funny thing. I started my business in 2008. I quit my job working for a remodeler. I started my business and shortly thereafter started working just with remodelers. And, those first few years, it was very marketing focused, but over the last 3-4 years, marketing has taken a little bit of a side, kind of a side slot. How do we qualify our leads? We got too many leads coming in. How do we organize our financials? That has become more the area of focus of my coaching. But we don't know what this is going to look like coming out of the COVID stuff and the coronavirus stuff. But I do know that I think marketing is going to play a bigger role than it has for many of you over the last several years. I think that's a fair thing to say. Now, right now is not the time to say, hey, here's what we do. So, call us, this, that. We've got to be careful with that, and I'll hit on that in the next slide. But right now is a great time to really dig into looking at your overall marketing plan and frankly creating a solid marketing plan so that when the time is right to start to implement that later this year, we can really hit the ground running. So let me just give you kind of my overview of what this looks like. One, start with looking hard at your 2019 marketing results. How many leads did you generate? Where did those leads come from? What was your closing percentage by lead source? Really understand the results of your marketing for last year. Then move on to marketing strategy. Let's get really clear with who your ideal client is, and let's get really clear with what your ideal project is. Let's spend some time working on that marketing strategy. Then let's move into marketing tactics. There are a lot of different ways that you can market your remodeling business. How are we staying in touch with previous clients? That's a tactic. Our website, social media, referral program, advertising opportunities, pardon our dust, postcards, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to look at all these different marketing tactics and to see what we're currently doing, kind of think about things that you definitely want to start doing. Maybe there's some things in there that you're going to put in the parking lot of ideas, meaning it's a good idea, but it's not something that's going to be part of my plan this year. We really need to go through all those marketing tactics. Then fourth, we need to put them in priority order and create some SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. We need to go through all those tactics and say, okay, by May 15th, 2020, I'm going to have my previous client and prospect list organized and send my first email out to my full list. That's going to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. We need to go through all these different tactics that make up our marketing plan and create that. And then we need to tie in a marketing budget with that marketing plan. I'm happy to answer further questions on that, but I think this is a really key thing to remain upbeat instead of beat up, is to use this time to develop your marketing plan. It's an area that so often kind of gets pushed to the side in the busyness of running a remodeling business, and now would be a great time to do that. And what I also know is when you're a remodeling business owner and you have a marketing plan in place, it's well thought out, it's strategic, it puts you a little bit of peace to realize, okay, I've got a plan to help generate leads. Nothing's guaranteed, but I've got a multifaceted plan to help me generate the leads that I need. So that's a biggie. Number 4, this is a little bit more related to marketing in today's environment, which is create content that is of value to your clients / community. Right now is not the time to be talking about how amazing you are, to be saying, hey, call us, we'll come out for a kitchen remodel. Is there still a little bit of that we can do? Yes, we need to be careful with it. But the thing that just rattles in my head is, how can we create content that is truly valuable to my clients and our local community that we serve? What does that look like? So a couple of just examples on that. The one in the top left corner, working on home projects. Is this time at home inspiring you to work on some of the home improvement tasks you've been putting off? Give us a call if you have any questions. We're happy to help answer anything you're stuck on or give you some advice as you work on projects around your home. We're experts at that. You're experts at that. Put your cell phone number in there and say, here's my cell. Send me a text, send me a quick video, send me some pictures on something you might get that you're stuck on, or something that is not going the way you want, and let me help you out. Let me give you some direction. That's just flat out value, and it's very much in alignment with the times that we're in. Everybody's at home, right? So that makes sense. This one down here says, this has nothing to do with remodeling, just a post to encourage you as we all continue to walk through these times together. We're all taking things day by day and trying to keep things moving forward. Let's work hard to keep everyone healthy, and hopefully things will get back to normal soon. Just kind of a word of encouragement as we go through here. And this is one that a lot of my clients have been using as they've been going to doing more virtual meetings. There's design work and planning for your remodel that can still be done. Virtual meetings now available. To help keep everyone healthy and practice social distancing, we'll be offering virtual meetings via FaceTime, Zoom, etc. We walk through your remodeling project together, answer questions, get a few simple measurements, reach out if you're interested. So that's kind of appropriate for what's going on right now. But think about local organizations, nonprofits that you can kind of put on a pedestal and talk about right now. What was the one I was thinking of just earlier today? It's not coming to me right now, but actually, this isn't super professional, but it was a good one. Yeah, can't think of it. But just, what is helpful? What is helpful is the name of the game right now. Think through that content, create that content. Oh, that was the one I thought of earlier. Was you're sitting there in your garage or your toolbox, or you've got your trailer there. Create a video that says, here's a tool that most homeowners don't have that we purchased a few years ago that we can't imagine being without right now. Teach people about different tools you use, how you do things, something that's going to be helpful as they're doing little projects and little things around the house, something that shows your expertise off, something that in these times are truly, actually, just flat out helpful. So keep thinking about those things and be creative. Test some things out. Try some things out. So that was number 4. How are we doing, Rose?
We're doing great.
What's your main takeaway so far?
Well, so far I like number 6. Work on that one aspect of your business. Just pick something and work on it for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, good. And for my last 3 here, would you prefer me to go through them fairly swiftly, or are we okay on time?
Yeah, if you could speed it up a little bit, that would be great.
Okay, we'll cruise through. So number 3 is kind of a little 2-parter. It says, study and adapt to new information, and be decisive, but don't rush decisions. I've had multiple conversations even this morning as people are starting to understand the federal help and options that are out there at the state level, the local level. There's a lot of different things out there. There's a lot of information. You've got to spend time as the leader of your business to study and be adapting to new information. The other thing that I want you to kind of have in your mind, and this helps you be upbeat instead of beat up, is you've got to be decisive. This is the time to be a leader in your business, but don't rush decisions. There's certain decisions, whether it's, okay, do I put them on unemployment? Do I keep them on staff so that I can maybe tap into some of the federal, money that might be available? There's a lot of things to weigh. And I think sometimes people feel rushed to make a decision where even if they waited 3 or 4 days, it wouldn't necessarily negate our team's ability to tap into unemployment or whatever that case might be. So be decisive, but don't rush decisions. And I wanted to share this from one of my clients in Pennsylvania. We pretty much did that in 2008, 2009. That being, this is kind of an email chain amongst other remodelers in a group that he's in. And what he was getting at is he, in 2008, 2009, really held on to all of his team because he figured they could weather it. They had some cash reserves. We ended up digging into our personal reserves, which we won't do again. Had the recession of 2008, 2009 not happened, we would have been retired 5 years ago. Our plans are to retire in 3 years, and even without using company reserves, we're losing money due to the stock market. Thankfully, we have income from real estate investments, but tenants have already reached out asking for rent reductions, and this whole thing has just begun. We didn't make hard decisions and lay people off quick enough the last time, which is why we didn't hesitate to lay everyone, including our sons and son-in-law, when the governor closed our business last week. Decisive. There's a lot of things when you guys start thinking back to that 08, 09, 2010, or if you weren't full in business then, of lessons you learned. We've got to be decisive through this. But we don't want to feel rushed. But I wanted to share that one example because I think that brings some levity to things and also brings us back in time to where a lot of people held on to things, held on to team, didn't really make any changes, didn't cut expenses soon enough, which really put a lot of remodelers, contractors, builders in a world of hurt. We've got to make sure our business is still here in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, so that we can build up anything that we've kind of been, that's been whittling away over this period of time. Okay. Number 2, establish a routine and have some grace for yourself. I did have some notes related to this one. This idea, I was talking to one of my clients, Bill, last week, And he goes, you know what, one thing I know already, Kyle, is that I need to establish a routine. This being home with the family, it's great, but my days are just not very organized, and I just feel flustered is kind of what he was getting at. I saw somebody post this morning of going, it's kind of fun to be at home and missing work last week. It's kind of already stinking this week. And we've probably got multiple weeks coming up. So make sure that to remain upbeat instead of beat up, establish a routine, and have a little bit of grace for yourself. I'm somebody that likes to optimize from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. There's work to be done. And if I'm organized, I can get more done today than I did yesterday. And that is good. I enjoy that. You know what? These are crazy times. These are weird times. I'm leaning into the fact that I have spent more time with my kids one-on-one than I have in a long time. My wife and I played rummy yesterday. I listened to my wife read the last chapter of a book she was reading out loud to me while I laid on the couch. As far as rummy and her reading out loud to me, years since that's happened. There's things that we're able to do right now that we're usually hustling so hard and so fast, and there's so much to do. So make sure you establish a routine, make sure you're exercising, make sure you're taking care of yourself, but also have a little bit of grace for yourself. Let yourself not be perfectly, organized and perfectly productive, and enjoy this time with family, with friends, get on FaceTime with friends, whatever the case is. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think that's important in order to be upbeat instead of beat up. Oh, and we do need a drum roll for this one, Rose, since it's number 1. That's what I was looking for. Number 1, understand that it's going to be all right. In the description of this session, I said at the start, I'm not going to just say chin up, it's going to be all right. Although it will be all right. And I wanted to end with this one. One of the ways to be upbeat instead of beat up is to realize that it's going to be all right. We are in the middle of a lot of doom and gloom right now. The frustrating part is we don't know how long it's going to last, but I think it's important to realize we're going to get through this. This country, businesses have gotten through things that are equally worse or equally as weird, equally as difficult. And you've got to just be realistic about the situation, but you got to have a little bit of optimism. You got to have a little bit of positivity. You got to be a little bit encouraged to realize we're going to be all right. So I wanted to finish with that one, and I don't have a crystal ball. I can't guarantee this, but I am very confident in saying we're going to be all right, and we're going to get through this. And I think if you follow some of these items, if you follow the advice of a lot of the people that are talking during this build aid, I think you're going to find that this may be a time in your Molly business where you actually make really good progress on the things that you've been needing to make progress on. So I am really hopeful that this was helpful. My big thing would be, share in the chat box just some takeaways. If you have some questions related to what we just covered, we'll be doing a Q&A time, and hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions. But be encouraged, remain upbeat. If you're feeling beat up, reach out to somebody so you can get back upbeat. Not that you have to be all the way up here the whole time. It's okay to feel down. It's okay to feel a little blue about things. But hopefully these were helpful items for you. That's all I got, Rose.
Well, that was awesome, Kyle. Thank you very much. It was very good, and I just want to add for your number 1, something that I've always heard is, and I've always told people, it's going to be all right in the end. If it's not all right yet, it's not the end.
There you go. Now, are you a fan of Sandra McCracken, Rose?
I don't know who she is.
Those are exact lyrics from a Sandra McCracken song. Look them up.
Oh,
it's a beautiful song.
I will have
It's
to
called
do that.
The song's called Fool's Gold, Rose.
Ah, okay.
Look it up.
I will look that up. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle, and thank you everyone for being here.